Hello Downtown, a podcast by Downtown Sioux Falls Incorporated. I'm Brandon Hansen. Last night, the Sioux Falls City Council took a big step forward on an important downtown project that we've been watching. Council approved both the sale of the former rail yard property and the TIF district that helps make the redevelopment possible. That means this long discussed site, and when I say long, I mean close to 8 years, on the east side of downtown in the East Bank, is finally moving forward. Right now, that space is largely an empty city-owned dirt lot. It is underused. It is not producing meaningful value for the public today. There is no real activation there, no property tax growth coming off of it. And our ambassador team knows that area very well because they're out there regularly cleaning up litter. In its current form, it's not pulling its weight for downtown. What's proposed instead is the kind of infill development downtown Sioux Falls needs more of. Mixed-use buildings, new housing, office, and retail space, structured parking, pedestrian-friendly design, public improvements, bike trail connectivity, and activation that gives more people a reason to spend time on the East Bank. The city says the project reflects the Downtown 2035 plan vision and the rail yard plan that has long described the area as a chance to connect downtown and the Whittier neighborhood more intentionally. And I want to say something specifically about the developer, Jake Christensen and the Christensen Development Group. This is not somebody parachuting in with no context and no stake in what happens here. He's been working on this for years. He has been active in the market, in our community, and is bringing new tenant relationships and outside investment capacity into Sioux Falls. Outside developers can introduce new ideas, new connections, and energy that complete what's already happening here. I also want to recognize the DTSF Development Council. This group has been sort of reimagined over the last year, and this was one of the projects that they focused pretty heavily on over those past 12 months. This is not a last-minute opinion for DTSF. The project has been studied closely for months. There's been real effort to learn more, to ask questions, to understand the mechanics, and to give thoughtful input. Our organization also spent a tremendous amount of time educating stakeholders, just like yourself who is listening to this, not just on this project, but on TIF as a tool, because too much of the conversation still treats TIF like something it's not. So we'll just address that directly. A TIF is not a handout to a rich developer. The new property taxes generated by the development are what reimburse eligible public-facing project costs. This is where it gets a little confusing because it's sort of a self-feeding mechanism. But the developer fronts that money, all of the money. They take on all of the risk. The reimbursement happens only as new taxable value is created. We are essentially telling this developer, telling Jake Christensen, how to spend the property taxes that he owes rather than collecting them. If the project does not happen, that new value does not appear. The site stays mostly what it is today, a dirt lot, generating $0 of property tax or sales tax. Now, if the project does happen, which it will now, the community gets all these improvements, the activity, and eventually a much more productive tax base. And if you're wondering, like a couple of folks at City Council last night, how exactly does this benefit the community? There were a couple of comments just about, we've heard that this has widespread community benefit, but no one's really kind of talking about what that exactly means. So here's the answer. In the short term, it turns a low-performing site into a place where people will now live, work, visit, shop, play, invest time, have memories with their families. It adds workforce-oriented housing with reported rents ranging from about $900 up to $1,450. Much lower than what you can expect in downtown typically. It adds public parking through a new ramp. I believe it was 229 spaces that will be available on any given day. It supports trail and street improvements to the bike trail right behind it to the east. It brings more foot traffic to the East Bank, which helps nearby businesses. It pushes downtown growth east in a proactive way instead of waiting for momentum to happen by accident. And then if you look at the long term, over time, it creates far more tax producing value than a dirt lot ever will, especially a city-owned one where we're not collecting property taxes at all. And then you must ask yourself, what do we use sales tax and property taxes for in this community? And they go to pay for police salaries, EMT services, snow removal, pothole filling, road repair, all of the services that we know and love and come to expect in Sioux Falls. And those dollars aren't just directed into downtown. They are directed across our entire community. And this is why we call downtown the economic engine for Sioux Falls. For downtown Sioux Falls, the organization, this checks a lot of boxes: infill, density, connectivity, activation, and long-term economic vitality. This is the kind of project that helps strengthen the whole district, not just one parcel. And finally, a real thank you to the mayor and to the city councilors who did the work before the meeting. These are complicated issues. They require sorting through facts, through misinformation, through competing opinions, and long-term trade-offs. Last night, city council chose to move the project forward, and I think it was the absolute right call, of course. By the time this project is finished and fully occupied, some of the people who voted for it last night may have already turned out. That's the nature of public service, though. Sometimes the smartest decisions are the ones where someone else gets to cut the ribbon. But downtown will benefit from those decisions for years, and hopefully this is not the last project where Sioux Falls uses TIF well, because when used correctly, which we do and do well in Sioux Falls, it helps communities get public improvements upfront, reduces pressure on individual taxpayers by growing the tax base and sort of spreading out the weight and creating places that attract more residents, more visitors, and more private investment. That's how a city keeps building momentum. Thanks for listening.
This is Hello Downtown.